Welcome, I'm Mick, an ordinary lad, and this is Sovereign Warriors.
We know once people realise we are the sovereign men and women of this land, and we can govern ourselves through putting into governments and make them answerable to our laws of our land, and obviously to these statutes, legislation, that what we've all agreed on through in time immemorial. And we take that back, and we can do that by in mass. We need to do it in mass, but non-compliance, as we've mentioned before. But we can do that by taking something back. But what you've got to look at is what these governments are doing, and there's a saying: if you allow the government to change the laws in an emergency, they will create that emergency to change the laws, and that's what we are seeing
at this moment.
At this moment in time, you can see them doing it now. They did it in COVID, changing it now and putting these mandates, locking us down, doing that. They created an emergency, and you can look at all the red flags over the times and decades ago that they created for wars and things. That they created an incident that then gave them an excuse then to do what they're doing. And if you allow that to happen, then that's what they would do. So as sovereign men and women, we've got to be them that may help them accountable for when they do this. So that where's the proof? Burden of proof. When they do instigate these sort of things, hold them accountable for. But that's got to be done en masse.
Yeah, makes sense.
It does.
Of course it does, because we can't do nothing on our own.
Yeah.
We need the masses to come together to do non-compliance, because this is the only way we're going to bring them down. Because we're not against the law, we're not against the police.
No.
What we want is a return to proper policing and to proper law.
Of course, I mean the infrastructure's already there in for us. It's just that the people are corrupting it massively, and it's going against the people, and they've been getting away with it. We've been infiltrated. Our government's been infiltrated, and they know it's corrupt, and we know that corruption's been going on for decades, years. We can tell this, we can state that, but it's the power of the people that will force that corruption and expose that corruption to come to the fore, and it's the power of the people then will help to create and stop that. We know that as obviously in 1993 we've got all the evidence now. We know it's happened. They hid the document for 30 years. That's hiding their deceitfulness, their guiltness. Yeah, it's treason.
Yeah.
And that there. We know that because the barons and then brought it forward and invoked it through the Magna Carta of 61. So we know what's going on, and they're trying to implement it, and they're trying to squeeze us with debt. They're trying to squeeze with these draconian laws that they're putting in place just to keep us there and distracted and away from the real answers. But we can stop this. We need to stop this. It really is simple. It really is, as people, as sovereign people.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned the courts are corporations, so therefore they've got no real authority either.
No.
That's what you're actually saying, isn't it? Because they're corporations themselves, and anything a corporation, as you've just explained, is below man and has no authority over man.
No.
Right, can you explain that a bit more, please?
We can go back. There's two phases to this. So I'll go back to the first one, which is the 1995 Crown Agents Act. We know the courts are part of the Crown Agents, and we know its agents, i.e. the judges, are part of that Agents Act, and their officers as such. And these are all being corporised as such to there. Yeah, so like I say, the Companies Act of 1985, that they have to adhere to that. They don't now, because obviously they've lost their sovereign body as a judge to preside over court matters. And there's a document that comes out, and it's the Clearfield Doctrine. That's it, the Clearfield Doctrine 2008. And that actually then stipulates that any governing body, I think it's any governing body that surrenders its sovereignty and authority, they become to the level of any other corporate entity, such as we mentioned before, the Asda's and Tesco's. They have no authority whatsoever. So they lose that, and that's in the Clearfield Doctrine. Stipulates that all government or any government official or office as such loses its sovereignty. It sinks to the level of any other corporation, and that's written now since 2008. So not only that, now we know that they've lost that through the 1995 Crown Agents Act, and we know that's been also lost through the Treason Act of going into the EEC. We've also now got a doctrine, Clearfield Doctrine, that actually states that any government agent that loses its sovereignty status loans itself to any other corporation. And it's down there in black and white. Right, so we know these are happening. So we know when it comes corporations decry contracts and consent. And there's another statement within the Clearfield Doctrine that it states that any government must must be willing to enter into contracts, be it commercial enterprises and agreements, in evidence, and have to have that in evidence before they can take it to court and enforce its demands through statutes, legislations and acts. Once that's put that together, that's actually stating that these courts require you to agree and contract before they can enforce a statute, legislation and act. And that's a statement within the Clearfield Doctrine.
Right.
So again, it's contractual. It requires consent. They cannot force all these draconian fines, legislation and act onto you without your contracting or consenting.
And we'll go into that further along these videos, but that's why they trick you with all these words
Maritime
and
law.
everything, maritime law.
And I'll explain
you enter that thinking you're doing this when really you're giving your sovereignty away by being tricked into it, basically, aren't you?
And that's like, you could have as much evidence in your package of law with all you're sending your notices in and all what you've done, and you can say, well, they haven't got an else chance, I've won this hands down. But you go into their maritime courts, you go into their jurisdictions, you can't speak, you can't talk, you can't actually defend yourself, and then you end up losing because they trick you. There's dictionaries that they use, but we think they'll be using the Oxford Dictionary, and they use a completely different other dictionary.
Blacklaw's Dictionary.
Blacklaw's Dictionary, and they use legalese, but that's going into depth.
There's something else which we will explain later on in the series.
Of course, yeah.